And now I'll share a little bit of the third book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Mastery of Love. I hope that focuses well. This book, one of the things that it teaches is that you shouldn't expect someone, this ties into the four agreements which I mentioned earlier, you really shouldn't expect someone to be any different than who they are. And if you really want true love in your life, you need to find the person who already is the person you need. It wasn't until, and that's such a simple thing, but it wasn't until I finally got that concept that I was able to free myself of unhealthy, parasitic relationships, and find a person that was absolutely perfect for me, and finally experience true love. I actually credit this book with completely transforming my life. I've always never had a problem making money, and from an economic point of view and all that kind of stuff, and but I've always had problems with relationships, because I've always made very bad decisions, and I've always made them for the wrong reasons, and I always made a mistake. This book helped me transform myself and find true love, and because of that, even though I've had a whole bunch of, if you listen to my videos, you've heard me mention a few things. I've had a whole bunch of bad things happen to me in my life, and none of them matter. I'm more happy, joyful, content than I've ever been in my life. Though at this point right now, I have nothing. All the material possessions that we all covet in our society, I have none of it left, and I don't care, because I have true love, and nothing beats that. I'm going to just read the introduction to this. Again, I hope Don Miguel Ruiz, the author, doesn't mind me doing that. I hope I do it justice, and I don't know, perhaps this will interest a few people into going out and finding this life transformation book. Certainly, this is the best book for how to do a relationship right. Just let me read you this one little story. This is the introduction, called The Master, and this gives you a little bit of the flavor of what you're going to find in this book. It's called The Master. Once upon a time, a master was talking to a crowd of people, and his message was so wonderful that everyone felt touched by his words of love. In the crowd, there was a man who listened to every word the master said. This man was very humble, and he had a great heart. He was so touched by the master's words that he felt the need to invite the master to his home. When the master finished speaking, the man walked through the crowd, looked into the eyes of the master, and told him, "I know you are busy, and everyone wants your attention. I know you hardly have time to even listen to my words, but my heart is so open, and I feel so much love for you that I have the need to invite you to my home. I want to prepare the best meal for you. I don't expect you will accept, but I just had to let you know." The master looked into the man's eye, and with the most beautiful smile he said, "Prepare everything. I will be there." Then the master walked away. At these words, the joy in the man's heart was strong. He could hardly wait to serve the master and to express his love for him. This would be the most important day of his life. The master was going to be with him. He bought the best food and wine, and found the most beautiful clothes to offer as a gift to the master. Then he ran home to prepare everything to receive the master. He cleaned his entire house, prepared the most wonderful meal, and made the table look beautiful. His heart was full of joy because the master would soon be there. The man was waiting anxiously when someone knocked on the door. Eagerly he opened the door, but instead of the master he found an old woman. She looked into his eyes and said, "I am starving. Can you give me a piece of bread?" The man was a little disappointed because it was not the master. He looked at the woman and said, "Please, come into my house." He sat her in the place he prepared for the master and gave her the food he had made for the master. But he was anxious and could hardly wait for her to finish eating. The old woman was touched by the generosity of this man. She thanked him and left. The man had barely finished preparing the table for the master again when someone knocked at the door. This time it was another stranger who had traveled across the desert. The stranger looked into the man's face and said, "I am thirsty. Can you give me something to drink?" The man was a little disappointed again because it was not the master. He invited the stranger into his home and sat him in the place he had prepared for the master. He served the wine he had intended to give the master. When the stranger left, the man again prepared everything for the master. Someone knocked on the door again. When the man opened the door, there stood a child. The child looked up at the man and said, "I am freezing. Can you give me a blanket to cover my body?" The man was a little disappointed because it was not the master, but he looked into the eyes of the child and felt love in his heart. Quickly he gathered the clothes he had intended to give the master, and he covered the child with the clothes. The child thanked him and left. The man prepared everything again for the master, and he waited until it was very late. When he realized the master was not coming, he was disappointed, but right away he forgave the master. He said to himself, "I knew I could not expect the master to come to this humble home. Although he said he would come, something more important must have taken him elsewhere. The master did not come, but at least he told me he would, and that is enough for my heart to be happy." Slowly he put the food away, he put the wine away, and he went to bed. That night he dreamed the master came to his house. The man was happy to see him, but he didn't know what he was dreaming. "Master, you came!" The man was happy to see him, but he didn't know that he was dreaming. "Master, you came! You kept your word!" The master replied, "Yes, I am here, but I was here before. I was hungry, and you fulfilled my need for food. I was thirsty, and you gave me the wine. I was cold, and you covered me with clothes. Whatever you do for others, you do for me." The man woke up, and his heart was filled with happiness because he understood what the master had taught him. The master loved him so much that he had sent 3 people to give him the greatest lesson. The master lives within everyone. When you give food to the one who is starving, when you give water to the one who is thirsty, when you cover the one who is cold, you give your love to the master. Don Miguel Ruiz, The Mastery of Love, transformed my life within relationships and allowed me to finally find true love.